About 2 years ago, I witnessed a conversation between two friends of mine that turned into an argument unnecessarily. And the reason for it was that neither party was paying attention to what the other person was actually saying. They weren't listening to the other person. They were assuming what the other person was saying and responding to what they assumed the person was. And of course, they had the worst motives for the other person, assuming that the other person was attacking their character when the other person wasn't, was just asking questions. And the problem that they had there is something that we call active listening. They weren't practicing what we call active listening, and that is listening to understand, not to respond. A lot of people, when they're in a conversation, they're listening to what's being said, but they're thinking in their mind, not paying attention to what's being said. They're just saying, oh, this person's got this point of view. I'm going to tell them this as soon as I get an opportunity to jump into the conversation. And then they just missed everything that that person said. The best way to have this conversation, an example of active listening, is to repeat back to the person what you think that they said. Say, let me see if I understand you. You said da-da-da-da-da. That gives you the ability to then verify that you understand what they mean. If they say, well, no, that's not exactly what I mean, and then say, ask some clarifying questions. Then you could say, I don't understand when you say this, do you mean this? All of these are questions that you're trying to get at to understand where they're coming from, not to respond to them. This also then gives you time to think out your response, to have a more clear and cogent response when you have one, rather than just trying to respond to what you think they're going to say or what you think they want to hear. In addition to that, by demonstrating that you're willing to listen to them, it demonstrates to them and it shows courtesy to them, and then they feel an obligation to return that courtesy and listen to your point of view. It doesn't always work perfectly that way. I've had a lot of friends where we've been in a conversation, I actively listen to them, go back and say, hey, if I understand you, this is what you're saying, and then they still don't want to listen to me because they are then in the process of assuming what I'm going to say, and they're trying to respond to it. And if we all do that, conversations don't get very far. So if you want your conversations to get a little bit further and you want to avoid unnecessary arguments, active listening is a good tool to use.